Hey everyone, it's Matt the Dice Chucker from the Literary Gamers, and today we're going to be taking a look at a new game, The Shores of Tripoli from Fort Circle Games, and this is designed by Kevin Bertram. This is a two-player game, though there is also a solo mode, where one person plays the Barbary nations and the Barbary pirates, and the other player plays the United States, bringing their navy into the Mediterranean Sea and trying to stop the Barbary Scourge, as they called it back then. In this game, you're using cards as actions. You'll either do what the card says on it, or you can use it for many different things. For the Barbary nations, you can conduct raids. In the American nations, you can use it to move frigates around, and that's really the best way to kind of spread yourself out there. You're also, as the Tripolitan player, you are trying to get a certain number of gold from the opponent before time runs out. Also, you can wait out the opponent, and if the American player just needs to bring down the nation of Tripoli through certain means. Now, the gameplay is really smooth. You have, it's 1801, I believe? Hold on. Yeah, 1801. It's 1801 to 1806. Those are the rounds, and each year has 4 seasons. So each player is going to play up to 4 cards in their hand. Sometimes they have reaction cards so that they can play, but overall they're going to play 4 cards, 1 for each season. And they also have 3 cards that are kind of open to them. Both sides have this, and you can use those at any time for your cards. Then you're going to get more ships if you're the American player. As time goes on, you can bring in ships from Denmark to help you out. And of course, the Tripolitan player is also going to get aid from Tunisia, Algeria, Tunis, and Tangiers. So Tangiers, Tunis, and Algeria. And that's done through card. For the United States, and there's quite a few stuff that needs to happen here, so I've got the rule book out behind the box, so sorry about that. The United States has to be the fall of 1805 or later. You have to have all 3 Tripolitan allies at peace. The city of Derna must have been captured by Hamet's army, and there must be no Tripolitan frigates in the harbor of Tripoli. At that point, the American player can win, but the American player may also win by capturing Tripoli, playing the cards that work with it as well. And if that can happen, it has to. It may not be played, these cards, prior to the fall of 1805. So that's what the Americans need to do to win. The Tripolitan player, first off, and one of the easiest ways for them to win, is to get 12 gold. The game will end immediately, and they will win. Second, the Tripolitan player can also win by sinking 4 American frigates, and the game will end immediately. And then lastly, if the Tripolitan player eliminates Hamet's army, the game ends immediately. And then if neither player has achieved that victory by 1806, the game ends in a draw. This was an interesting game to me for many different reasons. First off, I think the game captures the history of the time very well. I do think that the game borders that place between a little bit scripted with the mechanics, and I would actually place it more on the mechanics end, because every time we've played this, the Tripolitan player has been able to break through and win with the gold. And the American player, I got really close one time, but the Tripolitan player had all the gold they needed before 1805, when I can actually bring in the American forces into Tripoli and end the game, because America can't win until, I believe, mid-1804 and on. So that was interesting, the fact that the American players really just kind of have to do what they can to keep the enemy at bay until that time. Now, this is also a lesser-known portion of history, and oftentimes gets relegated to 1 or 2 lines in a Thomas Jefferson biography or in a book on that time. But I'm going to pair The Shores of Tripoli today with a book called Victory in Tripoli. Trying not to get a glare. I think I'm good here, because this is a library book and it has the nice plastic cover that librarians love to put on all their books. So, this is a very, very fast read. It's easy to read for many people who aren't used to reading history books. It's even got what I would consider swashbuckling portions in the book, but it gives you all the detail you need to know about what happens in the Barbary Coast, and with the details with the Americans. I had always been taught that Jefferson was the one who kind of ended the Barbary Scourge. I had no idea it traced itself all the way back to late American Revolution times when they were trying to draw up treaties with the nation so they can trade in the Mediterranean. So it was really interesting for me to learn all of that. And about halfway through, I would say the board game starts. So that was always interesting to me to learn more about that. And of course, that even though the board game ends in 1806, there are some kind of details that really don't end until 1816. So that's also another interesting thing the book points out. But if you're going to play The Shores of Tripoli, I do highly recommend reading Victory in Tripoli. This is by Joshua E. London. Like I said, it's a fast read. Highly recommend. Shores of Tripoli, I do recommend this game, especially if you're into history. And if you are someone who is not sure about getting into a war game, this war game is very presentable. It's very easy to get into. The rulebook is clearly written. And, a lot of the mechanics for combat are based on dice, and they're really simple. So definitely check out The Shores of Tripoli by Fort Circle Games and designed by Kevin Bertram. That's going to be my suggestion for today. Bye now.